If it's harder to swing than it used to and you're hitting it shorter and shorter, you're not alone. In this video, I want to show you how to get your distance back with simple tips without needing to swing harder or faster. Whether you're 55, 65, 75, you can still play great golf and feel good while doing it. All right, so let's start with your stance. Most golfers over 55 stand with their feet just way too close together. And from there, it throws off your balance and makes your swing feel unstable. So what I want to do is I want to get those feet about shoulder width apart, a little soft bend in the knees there. Okay, and I want to take that trail foot, so for me, my right foot, and kind of turn it out to the right just a little bit of foot flare. And these setup cues are really going to be helpful here for what's coming up next. All right, so now that we got this set up, feet a little wider, trail foot turned out, softness in the knees here, that foot flare on this trail side is going to be really helpful in getting me a bigger turn. I don't need to have as much mobility anymore. Once that foot's turned out, it allows this hip to freely rotate better. Okay, so I've got a little bit more rotation out of the hips because of that. Now from there, with that, I want to feel like I'm reaching those arms just for a little bit more distance. I don't need a lot. I don't need you to be here and then all of a sudden get way up there. I'm just looking for a couple more inches if possible, which should be easier now that we got the hip moving a little bit because of the foot flare. Okay, so get those arms reaching, hands reaching just a little bit more. Okay, next one here, that lead heel. I want you to make sure that we can get that lead heel lifting off the ground, okay? Don't ever think you have to keep that heel on the ground. That's nonsense. That's only going to help, especially once we have mobility issues, hip, knee issues, things like that. That's only gonna help the body rotate more and get these hands further back. The further these hands are away from the golf ball, the more speed I can generate into it. And that's what we're trying to do here. Sure, in the beginning, it's gonna be a little bit different. We gotta get used to a little practice to get that contact right. That's gonna come just like anything else in golf has, okay? And now from there, lastly in this tip, I wanna make sure this head moves off the ball a little bit. Don't ever think you have to keep that head on the ball. You do that, and that's fine. You can strike the ball well, but if you keep that head on the ball, that's gonna require a lot more thoracic rotation, hip rotation. There's a lot of mobility that it's asking for just to stay centered and rotate, okay? So if we're looking and we don't have the same mobility that we did before, we got that trail foot turned out for a little bit more turn, arms reaching for a bit more, lead heel lifting off the ground, that head kind of moving off the ball. That's gonna make me get a bigger turn and get a lot more speed here. Okay, so let's clear something up. You do not need to keep your lead arm straight. I hear all the time, I'm supposed to keep my arm straight here, right? No, you don't. That if you don't have the mobility to get huge turns and everything, then we're not gonna be able to get the hands and the club back far enough by keeping this locked out. Me as a professional golfer, I've never had a perfectly straight arm. My lead arm's always been a little bent. And as I get older and have less mobility, that's gonna bend a little bit more. So when I get to the top of the swing here, I want that elbow to be soft. That's just helping my hands and my club get a little further away from the ball, which is gonna make it easier to develop and generate more speed, right? A little softness to that lead elbow, okay, and let it go. All right, so next let's get into weight shift and using the ground. So far too often I see players just using the arms, right? As we get older, we stop kind of using the ground here, helping us shift back and forth. I hear all the time, I kind of hang back. That's because we're not training ourselves how to move back and through. So a really good drill here is press the club forward. I'm gonna lift the trail heel off. I'm gonna go back, lift the lead heel off, okay? And I'm gonna kind of just work back and forth like that, and then start putting in a swing. You're gonna find that, whoa, there's some speed there. Because as you're doing this, you're gonna find that it doesn't make sense to go and shift over here to the outside of the foot. I'm not gonna be able to go back and forth very good when I get to the outer parts of the feet. You're gonna learn how to be in the proper spots, inner part of the balls of the feet on both sides there, which then make it easier to kind of push off of in each direction. And so from here, we don't need to have the club coming up in the air, but we can kind of have that kind of rocking action and put that into a shot. You're gonna feel like, whoa, that gives me a little bit extra boost there. So if you like this video so far, please give it a like, subscribe, because it helps me make more content like this. So let's get back to the next tip. All right, so next we're gonna get into the wrists and the grip here. So far too often players are super stiff with the wrist, maybe gripping it too hard. And so we just can't get much wrist hinge in here. And so when it's really stiff, I can't really get this kind of whippy cracking motion here to generate a lot of speed, right? So you maybe barely hear this ribbon when my wrists are stiff versus adding kind of a softness to the fingers, softness to the wrist, a little more wrist hinge. More of a cracking sound because of that there. All right, so loosen up those hands, loosen up that grip, and a good kind of drill is as you're getting to the top of the swing, just feeling that it softens in transition so that it allows this kind of cracking action of speed into the golf ball. All right, so the last one we're gonna look at here is ball position, and it often gets overlooked, but it's super important because if we don't have that speed to get this lift like an airplane kind of taking off and continually rising, if we don't have that speed anymore, we need to have enough loft on the club, enough lift as soon as we hit it to make sure that it carries enough and that we're not just hitting it low to the ground, rolling everything. So what we want to do here is I want to get our ball positions. So right now I have a 7-iron. So typically a mid-iron is going to be pretty close to the center of the stance, but let's go ahead and move it a ball up in the stance. And then same thing as we're getting to maybe like a hybrid or a 3-wood. Let's get that closer to where we might have had a driver before. All right, we're still gonna have to stay down, we're still gonna have to brush that ground, but at least this way we're gonna have a little bit more loft on the club face at impact to with the speed that we have, allows it to get a little bit more launch, right? And that's just gonna help us get more carry out of the shot, ultimately gonna give you a little bit more total distance as well. All right, so there you go. 6 simple, easy to implement tips that you can start putting into the swing right now. You don't have to try harder to swing faster, okay? Very simple things at setup, right? Get that foot turned out, right? We get a little bit of weight shift. Let that lead heel come off, all right? Let that head move. This is just gonna free up the turn so much with things like this. Get the wrists a little bit softer. Okay, without trying so much harder, you're gonna find that this is allowing you to get this club head moving further back in the swing, which just creates more time to generate speed. Okay, put these to play. Let me know in the comments below which one really helped you out, and we'll see you soon.